Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December 9th, 2013 Raleigh Board of Selectmen. First on the agenda is to call the meeting to order in the Pledge of Allegiance. Brent Bazak, our conservation agent, in the audience tonight. Will you lead us in the pledge?
Can the
After you sign in.
teleprompter be adjusted to my height, please? I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, remind everybody that this meeting is being audio taped, audio recorded, and video recorded. And next is the chairman's comments, and I'm going to relinquish my chairman's comments to the vice chair tonight. Bob, Mary, and myself, we went over to Wreaths Across America down at the Topsfield Fair, and we had quite an afternoon. Very interesting, and I'm going to turn this over to Bob because we had a great afternoon, didn't we, Bob?
We really did. I mean, it's a very moving ceremony that they go through down there. And they were very much elated at their stop at the Pine Grove School today. They had come through, I think it was 3 years ago, and noticed all the kids out there waving their flags when they came through that morning. So they made it specifically to stop there this year to greet the kids. And one of their major themes is teaching. And they want to teach the younger generation what this is all about, to remember our service people. And they'd had a grand time down there. The kids were great. They were waving their flags, and the people just could not say enough good things about their visit to Pine Grove School in Raleigh, which was very good for us. It was very moving for me, and Bob too. As we started a project last year where we donated or dedicated the Wreaths Across America wreath to Bob Hale and put it on his grave last year. So we decided to carry that through this year and pick another veteran who was killed in action in World War II. And we chose Corporal
Excuse
Roy.
me, Bob,
Yep.
while you're doing that, I have to just leave the room for a second.
Okay,
And there's a reason for it.
I understand. Corporal Roy M. Marr. Corporal Marr was born in 1918 and died on December 24th, 1944. Corporal Roy Marr entered the service of his country July 24th, 1943, and received his training at Fort Knox, Kentucky. Upon completion of basic training, he was assigned to the 83rd Armored and Mechanized Defense Unit, ARMD, RCMBN. In December 1944, Corporal Marr was listed as missing in action. By September 1945, he was officially listed as killed at the Battle of the Bulge in Belgium, while engaged in action against hostile forces on December 24, 1944. In April 1949, Corporal Marr was laid to rest in his hometown of Raleigh with full military honors. The flag that draped his casket was presented to his mother by Military Escort Sergeant Howard Merry. And Howard Merry is my uncle. And in just a minute, Bob will be here, if he can get the door open. With the wreath.
Very nice.
Hey, maybe you can get a close-up of that for us? And this will be it's basically the same wreath that they're gonna take to Arlington and put on the cemetery in Arlington, Virginia. Very nice.
Very nice.
So that was that convoy that went by
Yes.
today with all the state police and all of the trucks and
Motorcycle group.
motorcycle
Yep.
group. And
That was all.
that was,
They're
wow.
coming down from Harrington, Maine, headed for Washington DC and Arlington Cemetery.
They were escorted by Maine State Police, the something Patriotic Riders,
Patriot Riders, yeah.
Patriot Riders, the
Motorcycle
motorcycle group. The governor of Maine's wife was riding a motorcycle, and she's going to go all the way to Arlington. There were 15 Gold Star mothers that were there, and that was quite moving. One of the women, I talked to her, and she had lost her son in 2005. And she was from Mississippi, and it's her first time to come along. And she said when they pulled into the Pine Grove School, she said she was overcome with emotion. And the Gold Star mothers, I mean, it's to what they've gone through, and it's just, and I went right back to 1970 when I had to go to, when I was in the Marine Corps, and I was ordered to go to a Gold Star mother breakfast in Boston here. And back then, it was, World War II. The hall was enormous with all these women who had lost their sons or loved ones in World War II. And it was a very emotional morning. And it's not like that today, but still, these mothers, these parents, these Gold Star parents, especially at this time of year, and one of the women said, who was her third trip, she said, at this time of year it's very difficult because you set the table and there's a missing seat. And he says, there's always going to be that missing seat. And no matter, it's very, I told her, best I possibly could, I said, very therapeutic for you to come and spend this time, on the wreaths across America. And it's therapeutic for us, because for us to remember them, and, for these wreaths to be placed in Arlington. And George Patton, daughter-in-law, Ann, is it? Ann Patton?
I believe so, yeah.
And Ann was there, and she accepted a wreath that will be placed on the Patton tank at down in Hamilton, that Sherman tank that's there in
Yes.
the middle of the park. And she accepted one of that, and accepted that, and they'll be placed. And I think it's kind of meaningful, especially with Mrs. Patton was there, and George Patton, and especially we're coming up on the, I think it's the 71st anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, is it?
Yeah, 1944.
Yeah, 1944, and this Corporal Marr was killed during that time.
December 24th.
Yeah,
Yeah.
December 24th. And I think the thing that kind of makes you stop and think about it is, first he was declared missing in action, then he was declared killed in action, but it was 3 years at least before he actually made it back here. So you kind of wonder, well, what happened in between? But it was, my guess would be, it was probably a battlefield burial. And they finally got around to
Back.
starting to clean things up again and brought him back.
Right.
So you have to stop and think about that and wonder what was going on. So, one last thing, from the Wreaths Across America website. To be killed in war is not the worst that can happen. To be lost is not the worst that can happen. To be forgotten is the worst that can happen. So,
Mr. Chairman, can we have a moment of silence for both the Raleigh
Sure.
veteran and all those Gold Star mothers and those that have been lost in battle, and for whom they had that parade today?
Okay, thank you, that was very appropriate.
Nice job, you guys did an excellent job. Nice little history there, both, too.
To listen to them get off all the speakers. Senator Tar did a wonderful job. He got up and, you know how he can speak, and but he said to be remembered with this wreath. What nation goes out of its way, and kind of taking the words a little bit out of context, but we remember those who we lost with a wreath. They're not forgotten, you know, and it's important. And if you get a chance next year when the Wreaths Across America come, go to Pine Grove School or find some place along the parade route or go down to the fairground. It's well worth it. It's a great thing to take part in. Just
One thing, Bob, is everyone should know that our Grange, the Rowley Grange, is
Yes.
the one who sponsored and put together the whole meal for Wreaths Across America. They've been doing it for 3 or 4 years now. The Rowley Grange is very small, but it has a service commitment to everything that is unbelievable.
And those who saw, I saw them at the table today, and they were very appreciative of that meal that Alan and Barbara Gasper
Gasper
put together. I didn't see anybody turning away the food. The food was soup to nuts they put together, and you know, again, they were very touched. These people coming from, you know, from Maine,
Yep.
coming down here, and of course, Senator Tar reminded them way before that Maine, before it was Maine, it was Massachusetts.
That's right.
Sure did.
So, put that somewhere. Bob will take care of that. Bob, thank you very much. That was good. And it was a good choice of that soldier lost so many years ago.
Yep,
Lost but not forgotten.
absolutely.
All right, we had citizen query, and we kind of, anybody have any questions tonight?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay, sure. Joe?
I'm a member of the Community Preservation Committee, and I think we ought to, as a group at some point, not tonight because it's not on the agenda, but to thank our state legislators for helping us out in providing more community preservation funds to the tune of an additional $25 million. Normally, we get about 30% of what we can expect as a town, and this year we're getting 100%. So we should get a letter out to Senator Tar and to Representative Hill and thank them for their work in getting these funds.
Sounds good. Good idea, Joe. Very good. All right. Citizen query tonight. We'll extend it another 10 minutes, okay? Until about 25 after, but gentlemen have a query or anything? Okay. Anyways, we'll do that till 25 after the hour, only because of chairman's comments tonight. Okay, moving on. We have an appointment, 7:15, and the Agricultural Commission Chairman, George Pensenka. George, we got a seat for you right down front reserved. Okay, discuss the options for the well at the community garden. Let me get the right folder here, George.
Yep.
Okay. Judge Pasanka is looking for a practical way to provide water to the community garden on the town's Brad Street property. The town's community garden is widely used by a cross-section of the town's population, for young people to the elderly. From young people to the elderly. Because the land is protected by Article 97 conservation land, there is no ability to install structures on the land. He would like to discuss options with the Board of Selectmen in preparation for the town meeting article this spring. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, George.
Well, we came and talked to you a month or so ago, maybe a little longer, and we were told to contact the Park and Recs because they have a well behind Pine Grove. We found out that well doesn't have the capacity to take care of what they need, let alone what we would need. Mr. Baselak had the word got back to me that one of his options were we couldn't build anything on the community garden land or any of the associated part, but the roadway that's going, supposedly eventually going into the cul-de-sac where the garden is town property. So one of our options is somewhere on the edge of that roadway, if it doesn't eat up the whole area, which I would assume that it doesn't, because you're supposed to make it so wide, but you're supposed to also have walkways on both sides, and there's a possibility that we could put something in that area. But other than that, there isn't much else we can do, and Mr. Sabatini has been great about it, but we're really imposing on him after a while, now that one part of the house is rented, and we have to go up there and turn the water on and turn it off, and I'm sure that when the other side of the house is being used, that's just going to cause a problem. We went to the community preservation and asked for some money, thinking that we were going to be able to tie in to the Pine Grove. Well, that's not going to cut it. I mean, even the money we had, we might have been able to get pipe up there and everything, but they don't have the capacity in the wells, so that's not going to do us any good.
Okay.
But we do need water. And the only option that I can see is the possibility of building it on the edge of the roadway land. I don't see any other possibilities. I mean, we can't build it on affordable housing, because that's not even in the process of doing anything. So, once that's started building, that goes to a whole different deeded area.
Okay. Brent, do you have anything to add to?
Good evening, Chairman Snow and members of the Board of Selectmen. I'm Brent Bazelak. I work for the town in the capacity of conservation agent. I'm here this evening representing the commission, although the commission was not given any type of, was not copied on this item, and therefore didn't know the substance or the timing of this discussion. So that being said, I'm going to do the favorite option of winging it. Yes, in previous discussions, when Mr. Pasanka sought my counsel as professional staff for the commission, I expressed the possibility, because a conservation restriction has not been culminated at this point in time for the Brad Street open space parcel, but it is in the works. In anticipation of that, I expressed the fact that built infrastructure or development is usually prohibited by such a document. The purpose of conserved open space is usually to not start installing various man-made infrastructure or to have the built environment intrude upon what is being preserved for its wildlife habitat value, vistas, or even the future or even present conducting agricultural activities, such as possibly haying the fields to maintain them. As we know, that option was explored, and there was some activity on the fields there. So therefore, starting to put things, building things, i.e. building a well, drilling a well, could possibly pose a conflict later on, as well as on behalf of the commission, we express a concern with being saddled with any liability or issues in long-term maintenance of said built infrastructure or the establishment of a wellhead, which we understand from the Board of Health could have a requirement that it be tested, and therefore who would be paying for the tests, et cetera. So anyway, I've probably talked about that enough. So it was suggested that there was the cul-de-sac, which to our knowledge does not necessarily have any type of requirement that it be built out to its fullest extent. may possibly be paved in the future, but sometimes we've seen where the comments from the fire department and the police department are solely that an area be maintained where they would be allowed to turn their equipment around. And so it could just be a graveled area in the future when the residential units are anticipated at being built over on what's called the affordable housing parcel. That being said, I would just ask if the option couldn't be explored, because of course there would be snow plowing concerns, et cetera, if you have a wellhead installed within what is supposed to be a turnaround right of way. You'd obviously have to do something to protect it, especially if there was the future possibility that moving maintenance equipment or other thing would be turning around, because you wouldn't want it to be fractured or lopped off by, say, snowplowing equipment or just a inattentive driver backing a vehicle up or something like that. That being said, since we've now heard tonight, and I've never had a conversation with them directly in terms of the Parks and Recs folks, since we've heard that they have a problem with the yield from their water supply to where it's anticipated that a ball field would be constructed, I'm wondering if a new well on their parcel that could be shared, that might be, in terms of location, the possibility of another consideration other than just the cul-de-sac. Not knowing anything about any geotechnical investigation of the soil strata or anything else like that, but knowing that those areas are not that far apart, I'm wondering if there might be consideration where we're already hearing that there is a deficiency in the yield of the water supply to the ball field. Then I believe I have heard directly from Parks and Recs that the ball field is just the first step in their possible development of some other recreational opportunities over on that parcel. So maybe the long-term future needs of both the Parks and Rec parcel and the community garden folks could be met by looking at the development of infrastructure over on the Parks and Rec parcel, if that's amenable to the boards that have responsibility and are charged with the oversight of those particular parcels.
George, how deep is the existing well?
Over 300 feet.
300 feet?
And that's behind Bradstreet's house going towards the Todd Farm side. It cost, what was it, approximately
Yeah.
$20,000 would be a new well. 21,000.
Okay.
We got.
How deep would it have to go, or is it?
Well,
is it
it's to where
diameter?
you get you hit the veins of water that give you your flow. And he said for a garden, this is Rollins, who built the well originally behind the house. He said, I think that well was doing 20 gallons a minute because they were using it as a farm, because they needed the extra capacity at the time to do the fields, and they had garden plots, and they used to have a small orchard there and things like that. So
they were getting 20 gallons per minute.
and he guaranteed us, I think, was 10 for the garden, and that should be sufficient for the area that we're talking about. But that, that could move. It all depends on where the aquifers are.
Yeah. How deep is the other well? It's
The other well is just around 300 feet.
300 also.
Yes.
But it just depends on
Yeah.
when you hit that
You can
vein.
go any depth depending on how deep the water veins
Yeah.
are, so you never know until you start drilling.
And you never know what you're going to hit.
Yeah.
Just because I have an artesian and I'm up off of Central on Easy Street, we get 26 gallons a minute. And down at Yankee Pine, the one in front of Yankee Pine by the little pond by Cassidy Brothers, that came in at somewhere around 50 gallons a minute.
Wow.
So it's just where the aquifer is.
Well, the issue, I think, Mr. Chairman, in the long run is gonna be, we're gonna need to have a water source
For the
to
ball
irrigate
fields.
those fields. In other words, to put a ball, spend tens of thousands of dollars on a ball field and then not be able to water it.
That's right. Got a
It's
big
gonna be-
problem.
So I'm not sure that we can come up with a solution right away. But is it a matter of, when we went out to the Girl Scout camp, I mean, they ran a hose from basically from Weathersfield Street all the way out. I don't know how far we walked out there when we walked, but they had a black hose, you know, 1 inch, that's 1 inch, I'm gonna say it's 1 inch, I don't know for sure, that ran through the woods so they could have a drinking fountain for the ball field.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the distance was, but I'm wondering.
That's quite a distance out there,
If
isn't
on a
it?
temporary, could we figure out a temporary solution like that? I mean, and obviously it's not permanent, but, because the other thing is you run into, if we start drilling wells, you mentioned that we have to start testing the water, and it's gonna be potable, it's gonna be, we're liable for it, whereas if we can tap off a line from an available town source, that all gets eliminated. I mean, we probably have to meter the water, but at least, on a temporary basis until we see really what we're gonna need to do, because it may be that we'll have to run some kind of a main or a line out to the ball field anyway, and then just
Well.
extend it to that. I don't know, it's not an ideal solution, but I hate to see us spend a
Park
fair
and
amount of
Recs-
money to drill a well, and then,
Park and Recs, when I spoke to them, said that the reason they put the artesian at Eris's fields was because the first year they had to buy from the town because it had to be metered. It was, I'm going back and trying to pick my brain with this one, but I think he said $7,500 to.
yeah, it's only going
It's
up.
expensive. And that's why they put the well field, or the artesian down at Eris Park, and why they put that one in. And they do, on their map, show a possible well on the property for those fields. I think it was brought up at that night that we were here before, that there was, somebody had gone down and walked it. Was it you, Dave? And
No, I hadn't been down there, but
somebody was down there. And they said that there's a possibility of them going to have to put another well in.
well, I think because the one they got just barely, like you say, they have to shut it down. It runs for 10 minutes and they got to shut it
Yeah.
down for 15. I mean, that's obviously not going to do a big,
Right.
According to,
good sized ball field.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, if we can come up with a temporary solution for a year or two that's, going to be relatively reasonable and doable, and then if we do end up with an artesian well, that's fine, but at that point, as part of the ball field project or a dual project, we can make sure that we drill enough to provide water for both sources, and if that's with the expense of water, that may well be what the answer would be over
Yeah.
there too, so.
It's like a seasonal line is what they call
Yeah,
it.
exactly. That's what we saw at the Girl Scout camp.
Yeah.
If you
It's just
go
a
over and walk
season.
down the road towards where they got a ball field way
Right.
in the back, it's a black plastic,
Most
runs literally hundreds of feet. I don't know, it might be
Yeah.
a half a mile or so that it runs, so that,
Most camps do that now anyways.
Yeah.
They start coming off the water source with a 2-inch, and towards the end they're at 3/4.
and we can kind of, not bury it, but at least run it in the area so that nobody
Right.
really gets out there anyway, and then, like I said, we may have to put a beater or something on it, but it might be something.
How often we test, if you have a well, how often is it tested for drinking water? Once a year?
I'm terribly sorry, you are asking the Conservation Agent Board of Health question.
I thought I'd
I
just
will
throw
say
it out
that
there.
I know.
I believe I heard the answer to that
Okay.
question within the last 24 hours, and so I will say, I believe the obligation is annually.
Yeah.
I think it's annually
And
too.
there's a
because
certain suite of potential contaminants or constituents, excuse me, that are tested for. But I believe the obligation to test goes up based on the potential number of users for it. And so there's some level of public access that then kicks you over into a category where they classify you as a public water supply, and then I think it's quarterly, but I'm
Quarterly,
not, I'm not 100% sure, and it might be staggered and have to do with different number of consumers as to the
And another,
obligation.
I'll throw another question out there.
Mr. Chairman, we're not talking about having it, we were talking about non-potable water
Non-pot-
with Mr. Pachenko to start off with. So this
Yes.
would be similar to the irrigation systems that we have that are supported by these wells at Veterans Field, behind Pine Grove and Aris Park. So if there's some requirement to test non-potable water, then we would have to adhere to those regulations. But we're talking about same thing as the quality of water would be similar to irrigating a ball field.
Yeah,
Depends on whether there's a spigot that.
And we'd have to
that a
have the
person could go up
signage.
to and get water.
Yeah.
I think Frank Marcangiani was here at that meeting when Mr. Lomas
So
was
it's
here. It was clear on
strictly
that.
for irrigation.
You know, you're talking as a pump house, and you gotta.
We need
power
electricity.
to it, power and
Yeah.
a pump house. I mean, it gets,
It's
it's a
expensive.
little more involved than just, that's why I say, I think at this point, maybe if we at least look at the possibility and where to hook up to run a surface line for, at least for next summer.
Well,
Right,
we
because we're
can-
hoping as we go through the winter here to get, we've been working on, with the rec committee and developing that field, which is gonna still take a couple of years. I mean, it's not gonna happen
yeah.
in the immediate future.
George,
But we could
what's,
build into that something, what they need, what they're gonna need.
you would need a hookup like from April to what?
In
Late
March or
September?
April till
Yeah.
October.
Yeah, it's
October,
right out in front
November.
by the gate there. You got the water main is right, you don't have to cross the road on the other side of Main Street. Might be worth,
Well, I-
talking to lay something on the ground. You'd probably have to come up close to that wall.
Right,
And it wouldn't freeze. But in the
They-
fall,
you would
you
have
shut
to
it
be
down.
shut it
Yeah, we
off.
try.
yeah, like we do
year-round.
out back here.
Right,
You know, our pipes, some of them only down 18 inches.
right,
And we blow them out like the first, last of October,
right.
and we keep going that way, in the cemetery.
Yeah, well.
And I'm
we-
sure you people, do you know roughly what you would be using for
See,
gallon?
that's-
Does it,
It's hard to
roughly?
tell because if we have a rainy year,
You wouldn't be
it's
using the
not
water.
bad.
Yeah.
But if we have a dry summer like we did 2 years ago, I'm sure that, I don't know how many gallons because we were taking it out of the Bradstreet house and there was no way to meter it. We got the well working and we just used the
see,
water.
we meter out here and it's, it really surprised me. It's not that much. We're under, way under $500.
Yeah.
And we get the Star Garden going off of that, and we pay the bill. I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of people use the water,
And
gallon jugs and
Right.
whatever. I mean,
I,
See, the other issue too with the well, when I moved here, I had a well, and the ability to recharge, you run a hose full blast. You start whatever the aquifer is. If you may pump 20 gallons a minute for the first half hour or an hour, then all of a sudden, if it isn't recharging quick enough,
Yeah, that
recovery time,
Drop the water table.
which is what the rec committee runs into over there now. When you start drilling wells, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts
right,
that are involved. In fact, I switched over to town water when it got to the point where I couldn't, if I watered my grass for a couple hours, and I'd have no water in the house for the next hour until it recharged. So I mean, these are all kinds of issues that
it also
to
depends
be
on how
dealt with.
far you go down.
Yeah, well, when I did mine, I mean, my well was 180 feet, but they drill until they get so many gallons per minute of
Right.
quality water. And they might go down 100 feet, they might go down 300,
Right.
they might go 800, depending on, there's just no way of telling for sure. They got the Dowser sticks or something, I guess. Some
Well,
of the guys can,
that works for shallow, but it
Yeah,
doesn't work
so-
for artesian.
Mr.
Because
Chairman?
once you go
Yes.
through the ledge,
I want to ask you, Bob, a question about Bradstreet. You're familiar with the area.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the George's old well, the house that goes with the Bradstreet Farm, is down 300 feet.
right,
Now, did you say that the well at the athletic field, the Veterans Field, was also down 300 feet?
I think that's what they told me, yes.
Now, I guess that concerns me to some degree, only because the plans for the ball field show another well being installed.
Right.
Now, if they gotta go down 300 feet to get to that water, it's not that far away from the existing 300-foot well.
Right.
So there's no guarantee that we'll get the capacity we need to supply both fields plus the garden.
If they're both 300 feet, we have to go down 300 feet.
Yeah, and that's $21,000, right?
Yes.
Okay.
At least.
Now, when this garden was first proposed, there was a question about getting water supply to it.
Mm-hmm.
And the water department said that they could do that on a temporary basis.
Yes.
And I believe the cost was somewhere around $3,000,
3,500 originally.
3,500. Okay.
And they went to the end of Bradstreet's property because according to their plans, there was a manhole with some kind of connection in it.
Well, that would be the.
But they
Now,
couldn't
would they-
find it.
No, I was going to say. So what they proposed, though, Judge, was overground, over the top.
Yes,
of
they
that.
were going to give us a
Temporary. Okay.
um,
My concern
seasonal
is,
line.
My concern is that's $3,500. The well is at least $21,000 for 300 feet. If they have to go deeper, it's going to be more money.
Right.
Plus, we're going to have
Clarification.
to. Plus, we're going to have to bring the line across conservation land to get it to the garden.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in time, and I don't have a crystal ball to be able to determine when that time frame might be, there will be a housing development, a low-income housing development in here
Right.
for 4 units. Two duplex units,
Right.
4 units total, which will trigger a water main down the driveway
Mm-hmm.
to the property line of the farm. So I'm kind of thinking if we could spend the $3,500 to get the over-the-ground unit from the hydrant to the garden this year.
Right.
Hopefully, they come up with something if in fact it goes forward for the ball field, and we can determine whether it's got enough capacity to do both. Or we can wait for the development to bring the town water into that point anyway. There'll be a hydrant right at the end of that line where it
Right.
reaches the boundary line for the house that was just sold. So I mean, I just, looking at the payback and I'm thinking, $21,000+ is a lot of money.
And that's iffy. That's not
That's-
cast in
right.
stone.
Well, it's gonna be at least that.
Yeah, at least that, if not more.
I mean, we know that they couldn't get water until they got 300 feet with the first one.
Right.
Plus, that quote is for the well, it doesn't include a pump house or a
No.
running power, so we're talking more cost over and above.
But it did include going down 500 feet,
Right. If needed.
500 feet,
An additional 500 feet?
and up 500 feet plus 100 feet of casing.
Casey.
100 feet of what?
Casing lining.
Well,
When they
Down
do
to the
an
bedrock.
artesian, Bob, they go down with steel pipe till they hit the ledge, and they go into the ledge so far, and then they seal that so that you don't get groundwater into the artesian.
Okay.
And then they go down and drill until they hit the amount of gallons per minute that they need that they've said that they'll get for you. I'm not sure what it was when I put in mine. The residential had to be 5 gallons a minute.
5 gallons a minute.
That's for a residential.
Mhm.
This would be a little bit more than that.
so I guess my thought is, Mr. Chairman, that we, for this particular season coming up, which is gonna be, what,
Mhm.
five months away from now,
Yes.
that we go to the water department and see if we can get that over-the-ground temporary line put in to get us by this particular season. And then at the end of next season, at the end of the summer of 14, we'll have hopefully have a better handle on both of the projects. One is the ball field, the other is the low-income housing, and try to make a decision from that point forward.
And that price for the water department?
Well, it was quoted as 35.
35.
It was quoted as 3,500.
Okay. Jack, you're familiar with that area. You figure that's,
I think that's a route to go. I wouldn't throw the money 21, and
okay.
it could be more for
Right.
drilling a well.
Right.
That's no guarantee, but this is guaranteed. You're gonna get water.
Right.
And
right.
like Bob said, 2 or 3 years, you're gonna be practically putting a line down there.
And
Right.
So you're not chasing
Right.
bad money.
You eliminate
You
the
know what I
pump
mean?
house and electricity and
Yeah,
everything else.
and it
nice
helps
to
them out.
do the
They
other
need
project.
water.
Yeah,
Yep.
you know, you can't
You
do
know,
the
definitely
governance
need the
without
water.
water.
And even if you paid 4,000, I think you could negotiate with the water department. I think that you could,
Okay.
you know, and it's temporary. I told you what we paid over here, and you know, there's a lot of people use that, and our bill was under
Yeah.
500, George.
And that would be potable
You know,
water.
We
So
turn
if
it on
somebody
April, and like I said, be the
wanted
same
to
as
drink
us.
while they were
We
down
turn it
there,
off in
that we don't
October.
have to worry
You
about
don't have to
the
worry about it.
possibility
Right.
of
Yeah,
Makes sense.
Plus, you
contaminated
don't have
water.
anybody watering hours on end. You basically, people are filling buckets or running a,
Yeah.
do they run a hose off?
They
of it?
usually run just a sprayer hose for the few little bit time they're there. Few people have irrigation.
Yeah. So,
And we do have a little bit of money. One of the Girl Scouts did a plot this year, and you guys accepted a $1,000 grant check that went to the Agricultural Commission to help offset the price of anything that would propagate the gardens more. So we have that to fall back on a little bit.
Okay.
You know.
Well, it sounds like we got a plan.
and the thing is too, George, you can buy, we just did a project out there 3 years ago and piped from right here at 1A
Mm-hmm.
halfway down and across the other side, and we didn't spend 600 for the inch.
Yeah,
The pipe is the cheap thing.
yeah,
And,
because
and really, it was easy. We had a
Indeed.
little auger one day.
yeah, well, we
We
did
did
the
it.
pipe that we got from Bradstreet's farm. We ran 1 inch and a 3/4 from the house down, and 300-foot coils.
Yeah.
So it was only a couple $100 for the pipe. We did all our own
Yeah.
work,
Mm-hmm.
you know, did our cutting and did all our standpipes and faucets and everything else. We, you know,
Well,
Mr. Chairman, just, we would have to iron out here or get some direction from Mr. Pachenko on how, if there would be a water meter assigned to that. The Agricultural Commission doesn't have a large budget at all. How is this, would this be paid out of the revolving fund through the fees? They charge a modest user fee or something. We would have to have a revenue source to pay for the water. Or do we need to,
that would be the other.
well,
Address that.
the majority of the funding would be required in the next fiscal year. It's only be, May and June probably, so that we could, in your budget, if by then, in other words, if you leave here and go talk to the water department and see what they would currently charge is 3,500 enough, or they're gonna,
Right.
what the current charge is. I don't know how we will find the source of money for that that's currently available. Although, if worse comes to worse, the May town meeting, a special town meeting, we can come up with some funding, at least, get the thing going, be ready to go, so that we
Right.
can buy the pipe and run the line, and the water department would probably do a lot of work ahead of time to be prepared for that. But I mean, it's, put it, build into the next year's budget for what we anticipate the cost would be. I think that's probably the only, and that $1,000 from the young lady that did all the project there, that would be money, there'd be a little bit of seed money to use to get the
Right.
whole thing started, if in fact we have to wait till town meeting, the special town meeting, to get some actual funding, but at least it would give everybody some hope that, before the hot season comes,
Yeah,
there'd be water available, if everything is in place, so that day after town meeting, water department can start running that line.
so we have funds to run it from May, June.
we may have enough money
Well, we
to
could,
get.
the town meeting, we could come up with, special town
A
meeting,
special
if
town
we have
meeting.
to, we could,
Right,
as well as, maybe, I don't know how that, the young lady's money could be used, but maybe, I think that's the least of our problems is
Yeah.
paying for the water at that point. Because not, May
All
and
right.
June, I don't anticipate there'll be a lot of water going
No.
through there. More July, August.
So what do we need right now? We could, everything, just explore with the water department?
Well, if the board wants to give sort of a motion to give some guidance to the agricultural commission, if this is the idea, to maybe look at the option that Mr. Murray suggested, I think it would be good to do that in the form of a motion, so that Mr. Pachenka can go to the water board with the blessing of the Board of Selectmen to proceed in this
Right.
way and come back and meet.
I'll make a motion that we allow Mr. Pasanka to approach the water board and get back to us within 2 to 3 weeks of what the cost and what's involved in the project, and also explore from your commission where any funds might be available. So that if you come back in a couple of 3 weeks,
Well,
maybe
this-
maybe
I'll
after
second it.
Christmas,
Okay.
so that if we need something, we'll be ready, prepared to, that'll give us plenty of time to put something on for the special town meeting in the spring.
You'd want to put it on the special because you can
Yeah,
use
so you
it
can
the
use it
next
right
day.
away, yeah.
If you go the regular May,
Right.
you gotta wait
No,
until
we're looking
July
for the-
1.
we're
You
looking
need
for the
water
special.
by then.
Okay.
So I'll make that motion.
I have a
to-
motion,
Second.
and I have a second. Any discussion? Any other comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Business
Thank you
judge.
very much.
All right,
I'll get myself on the agenda for the water board.
okay.
Thank you, George, and thank you for
Thank
all
you.
you do.
Thanks, George.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Fred, thank you for coming in.
Brent? Thank
George,
you.
again, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, always a pleasure, you know that.
George.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks, Jack.
Take care.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, may I be of further service to the Board of Selectmen this evening?
I think we don't have any more use for you
So you're
tonight.
meeting with us tomorrow morning?
Yes.
Tomorrow morning, 10:30, right?
You can run, but you can't hide.
Thank you very much.
All right, Fred, thank you.
Fred.
Thanks for
Fred.
coming in. All right, it is about 10 minutes to the hour. Citizen query was over at 25 after we extended it a little bit, only because we had extended chairman's comments tonight. And we have another appointment, and we're a little bit late for it. I apologize to Fire Chief James Broderick. He's coming in to discuss probationary call manual and update on the ladder truck. Board of Selectmen needs to review the chief's probationary call manual. If the board is satisfied with the manual, the board needs to vote to approve it so the chief can implement it as part of the fire department's probationary call training program. Chief will also update us on research into the replacement ladder truck. So with that, Chief, everybody has this from the chief, the orientation training program? Okay, just want to make sure so we can follow along. So Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, the training program, it breaks down into 9 chapters, and defining definitions, requirements, compensation, pay, personal matters, safety on the job, injuries, training, personal protective equipment, response to the station and the POV, job responsibilities of a probationary firefighter, chain of command, and the policy and procedure manual is identified. It's basically something that was always an unwritten policy in the past, but now it's defined more. Deb helped me out a great deal on this, setting it up, and without getting too in-depth for each section, is there any questions about anything? About anything in particular, and I guess kind of speed along a little bit.
Any questions from the board? Any comments?
It was up to this point, Chief, it's just been kind of a...
Well, we had a very,
Just kind of-
there was written stuff, but it wasn't in a formal policy. It was, pieces and parts that we took, and basically took what the fire academy used for their application process as the policy of what to expect. I mean, now it's all written down, whereas before it was, parts of it were written down, not all of it.
So this is taking the probie, probie, coming into the department, and this is spelling out everything.
Correct.
And for he or she coming onto the
Whoever,
department,
This is
And all the requirements to be a fire,
Right.
call firefighter. It's spelling out the pay, the personnel, safety procedures on the job injuries, reporting injuries, all that. Training, personal protective equipment.
to the report to
What
the
you're
whole-
required,
Yep.
response to the station, and,
what to be expected of them early on,
and understand this is your job, your responsibilities, and understanding this is the chain of command, this is how you proceed. And
Correct.
when you have an issue within the department, and it just spells out all of the policies and procedures. Okay.
for a recruit, yes.
Yeah.
Pro-
And then tells them, basically, you're going to go to the fire academy,
Correct.
and you are going to attend for such a time, and then you'll come back and have, call it on-the-job training, okay? And then they go back to the fire academy again, correct?
No, they'll be
What,
done
is
with the
there-
fire academy.
Okay.
We'll just evaluate them when they come back to see if they're competent.
Now, the levels, if I remember being over there with you, just explain this to people back. There's firefighter 1,
1/2.
1/2.
Right,
Okay.
and when they get done, this class in particular, that they're graduating the end of the month, when they get, if they successfully pass everything at the end, they will be certified the day that they pass their final exam as a firefighter 1/2. Whereas in years past, they would go through the class, get their certificate for passing the class, and they have to take the exam for certification, which in some cases was up to 3 months after they graduated. What they've done now is they've built it into the training so that they don't have that big lag time. So once they come out of the academy, if they pass everything, they're certified. And then we'll evaluate their abilities, and then when they come back.
What's the age requirement again for firefighter?
18? I don't know, what's the hiring
Is that
policy for
18?
the town? I don't know.
Yeah, I would suggest that it would be 18.
Yeah.
Unless there was some state law that stipulated
I would think
otherwise.
so. I mean, you go to the military is 18,
Right.
so I would imagine it's the same thing.
I've had one person come to me at 17. I told them to come back when they were 18 because they were still in school, and I didn't think it was.
No.
It's probably an age, because as I know, police recruits are required. There is an age for police recruits.
There's a
Yeah.
cap
I don't
for
know if it's-
reserve
but-
police officers, you can't be older than 35 years
Yeah.
old. I'm not sure what the,
I mean, years ago, Chief, it used to be, you could join the association at age 18, and that would be kind of like a probie at that point. You could join the active company at age 21. So, that's what it used to be, but that was a while ago.
Might be worth checking the general laws just to make
Yeah.
sure that we're,
Yeah, so
I know they got to be at least 18 to get into the fire academy, so.
Yeah, so that's
that-
the
that's
start,
gonna
that
be
should be
18.
the start. Yeah.
All right. Oh, by the way, how are we doing recruiting with firefighters? Just general, I'm just gonna
Not
throw
good.
those there. Not good?
No, I have a letter in with my budget
Okay.
explaining some of that.
Well, it's a good time to get.
We're in dire need of new people, whether it be full-time or call. Call is getting very hard to recruit people, and it's been very difficult to retain them after they've been trained because of the full-time jobs, personal life,
Right, right.
moving out of town. It's been 5 years usually, on average, from the time they join till the time they leave has been 5 years.
5 years.
And it's this past year is the first time in 4 years that we've actually recruited anybody. We haven't. It's not been. Once they find out what they have to do, it's, or they're looking for a full-time job, which I can't offer.
But it is sort of a stepping stone for a young person.
A lot of people, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
But for one reason or another, the young people aren't the ones coming in. It's usually late
Older people.
20s
Well,
on up that show interest in joining. Whether school gets in the way, or it's rather do it in the virtual world. I don't know, but we're not getting. I've had people call, and I've never, come on down. And that's as far as it goes. I have one right now that will process. I haven't had a chance to process them, but being that we won't have another class for almost a year, I don't want to have them hanging them around for too long and not doing anything. So after the first of the year, I was going to go through
I think that's always a good thing for a young person to try to step up sometimes and learn something different.
Yeah, well,
Take a step.
I agree.
Military, fire, police.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree, but I think some of the young people have other ideas.
Well, sometimes sometimes they don't know,
Yeah.
and they don't understand, and it's our job as being.
Chief, how many call men do you have now? Excuse me.
We have 21 altogether, so you subtract the three of us,
gotcha.
we're down to 18. So there's 21 of us altogether right now.
Okay. Well, we really get the word out there and talk it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Sometimes someone maybe tune in, you don't know, and then all of a sudden, gee, it's something I never thought about. And I would imagine a lot of them never think about that. They thought about it when they're 7 or 8 years old, and all of a sudden, it could pop up at 18 or 21 or whatever, and then maybe, take that step and go down to the fire department and say, gee, maybe I want to do that. So if you're tuned in tonight, maybe think about that.
In page 3, you talk about an evaluation at 6 months.
Correct.
Is there a document associated with that, or is that, in other words, what?
There will be, yeah, it would be, we'll probably use basically the evaluation form, do the evaluations on everybody else that the personnel boards used, and just base it on their abilities of what they've learned during that time, whether they're learning well or they're not learning well, whether they can't perform a particular task. We base it on that. Depending on whether, if they're joined during a recruit class that's running, I probably won't see much of them because of the time commitment with the actual fire academy class. But when they come back, we'll start looking at them and seeing if they've grasped stuff. When we do department training, which is we'll spend some time seeing how well they've learned things and if they need to have some retraining or if they're having difficulties, kind of show them again. But that was the impression. The idea was to use an appraisal form from the town and kind of custom it to the different categories, attention, working with others, doing the physical task. I can, base it on that. That was my intention anyway, was to use that form.
Any other questions from the board? Comments?
The only comment I would make is that based on our conversation some time ago with the chief, I think that this is an excellent document that you've produced, that it really lays out the policy for the training for the recruit and what's required.
Seems good, Jack. Chief.
Jim.
Good.
That's my uncle.
I don't know what that came out of. I was thinking of Jack.
I know. I do the same thing sometimes, and you feel foolish.
Plus, these kind of documents are subject to update and,
Well, yeah.
As we go along and there's issues, you can...
We can make changes if it needs to be.
I would recommend that if you develop an evaluation form that you end up putting it into the document, so that a recruit will see how he or she is being evaluated.
Sure.
And then, plus, if there's issues along the way, that there is a document. It's just not off the cuff or...
No, it would be...
documentation is critical these days with...
And that's why the idea was to use the town form that was already approved.
Is it spelled out how long they are a probie?
6 months?
Well, there's some it's going to be based on successful completion of the recruit class.
Okay.
It could be longer, it could be less. It depends on if they come in with prior experience from another department. They're on an accelerated program
Okay.
because they've already had the training, and so we would just judge their abilities and stuff like that. If the individual, for some reason, can't take the recruit class that was during the time that they joined up, and I'll use an example. They have a school that they're going to for a trade.
Okay.
That's a little bit more important for the individual's welfare to get through that, and then so they'll be on probationary status longer until they get through the class. If they don't pass through a part of the fire academy class, I can't say just off the cuff, you're done. There's got to be a reason. Find out what the reason was, whether it's the written exam or it's the parts of the physical part, and discuss it with the individual. And based on the findings that we find, we may allow them to take the class again the following year. But if after the second time, bye-bye. Because if you haven't gotten it on the second time,
Would it be wise maybe to use 2 evaluation forms, one for a probie with prior knowledge and one with no knowledge, so that you would have 2 evaluation forms? Or
I never thought of it that way, but yeah, I guess we could.
I mean, I just thought, Dave, what do you think? You kind of worked on that.
Yeah, I think if you develop a form, and then you can.
2 for one.
Well, I would develop one, and it may work for both, or you may
Yeah.
want to then further, but I think it's critical to get the first one.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of hone it in if you feel that there's a need for 2. Or
Yeah, because I think if with the person with previous experience, most likely he's been on a fire department somewhere else. So when
Right.
he comes in, it's more or less learning the way we do things here. The mechanics and all that he should have, and we should be able to not have as much. Instead of having a midpoint, or over the year, we just after the 6 months, you good or.
Now, would the equipment here be different than equipment in another fire department? And I'm only saying, I understand the engines will be different, but the training will be basically
They're all going to be the same.
the same.
Yeah, it's all the same. The differences in equipment might be very minute. It's
okay.
manufacturers.
Yep.
But the concept of using a pry bar by one brand versus another is the same. So it really is. It's the use of the tool, not so much the tool
A
itself.
pry bar is a pry bar is a pry bar is a pry bar. Yeah.
As long as you use it right.
As long as you use it,
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
Chief, under Chapter 7, it's job responsibilities of the recruit probationary firefighter. Section 6, it's on page 12. At the very last sentence there, it says, after the first 6 months, the recruit's attendance, performance, and attitude will be evaluated by the recruit's company officers, and a report will be forwarded to the deputy chief and the fire chief to determine. Would that be sort of the question that Bob had asked? How long before they get an examination type review?
Yeah. I mean, by that point, they should have a grasp of certain basic skills
Right.
that we've taught them. Not so much in the recruit class.
Right, well,
But
the recruit class is separate,
Yeah.
but aren't they evaluated by Mass Fire Academy at that
Yes,
point?
they will be. Once they're in the class, they're valued by them,
Yeah.
and they send reports back to me.
Right, so that
As-
would give you that right off the bat, if they're certainly not gonna be able to go into a burning building. because
Yeah, if
They're not
in the
gonna make it.
first part of their training, the first, I've had 2 reports already, and they give what they call subjective evaluations to the individuals, and if there's problems, they'll. God, that's not good. We're all over the place. If they're not doing something, or they're saying that they should not, they'll call me personally,
Yeah.
and what happens is they sit the individual down with the instructors and myself, and they've had people wash out of the class already, more than one,
Yeah.
and they'll say, either academically you're not making it or physically you're not making it. The day one, they do a physical, not so much an evaluation, but to give them an idea of what they're getting involved in.
Right.
Kind of say, oh, wait a minute, because some just aren't physically able to do it for whatever reason, and it gives them a chance to, I guess, graciously bow out.
Yeah.
So there is points that they evaluate in the
Right.
class, and if there's problems, real problem, I mean, other than, all right, well, you didn't pick the hose up right, real bad problems, they sit down.
Well, they run the other way when they have to go into a smoke-filled building.
That would be a big problem.
That's not gonna work.
But and that gives us the, all right, they'll sit down with us and we'll make a decision of, thanks for the interest, but maybe this isn't for you.
Right. So that's right at the beginning, and then later
Right.
on you wind up with about what's in chapter 7
Right.
to do the
Yeah.
the in-house evaluation.
In-house evaluation,
Yeah.
which we'll do,
So that's about a 6-month period after they graduate from the
to
academy.
see how they're doing, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Peterson had suggested an evaluation form that would be part of this. I would suggest as the personnel officer that any
Yes.
evaluation tool that's being used to evaluate a group of employees be reviewed by the personnel board and
Yes.
approved, because if that's gonna go in personnel files
Yep.
for any documentation, I do think the personnel board needs to have the ability to review that and officially approve it as
I don't
an
have a
official
problem with that.
evaluation form.
That's why I was
I
gonna
think
use
that's
it
a
for one
wonderful
that's already
idea.
in
I
place.
just don't wanna, I wanna make sure that
Yeah.
they're part of
And the
that.
other thing, this is a kind of a unique position, so that it may be a matter of going around checking with other departments, because a fire department evaluation form may be quite different than a clerical employee or something.
Right.
All right,
So that, if you could maybe, without reinventing the wheel, come up with a
yeah,
couple of different forms, we can sit down and go through it.
I haven't quite found any
Yeah.
yet, but
I think that's a darn good idea to have that.
I will-
for the-
We can get together, Chief,
Yeah.
and kind of go over it, just so that it's
Okay.
tapered for a probationary call
Yep.
firefighter and the skills that they've,
Yep.
ascertained at a certain point in their, job growth development would
Okay.
be.
And my concern is that, if we run into a problem, that we have proper documentation on a form that we all agree with, so that if we need to
It's official.
let someone go
Yep.
or
That's right.
discipline someone in some manner, that, it's done across the board, so everybody's treated the same,
Yep.
so.
I was, you were talking about physical limitations, and I was, a couple of weeks ago, I was at the Veterans, and Terry Hart spoke, and he was talking about only 17% of the population can go in the military.
Yeah.
Because of physical, I was like,
well, my son telling me about his time with the basic training. There was people that right down to the end of basic training, they didn't graduate,
Yeah.
and they got sent home. They didn't get recycled through when I was in, like I was in.
Me neither.
They sent them home,
Yeah.
and a lot of them, it wasn't because of the ability to do the MOS that they were training for, it was because they were physically
limitations, yeah.
capable of doing it.
Okay, I mean, today a lot of you have these free boot camps to go to.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion,
All
Mr.
right,
Chairman,
yes.
if the discussion's over, that we adopt this
Okay, I have a motion.
manual.
I have a second. Any other comments on it, Dave?
No.
Anything else? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, good job, Chief.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now,
Next one. I brought some visuals for you.
with the Board of Selectmen, visuals are always good.
Well, sometimes it's easier to show a picture than trying to describe it. Just kind of a follow-up to the one letter I sent to you a couple of months ago. Let me get my notes here. We had several manufacturers come in, and in the order that we saw them, it's in the handouts there, the drawings. The first one is the Sutphen that some of you saw. The second one is the Ferrara.
Yes?
The third one is not the same Ferrara, is the Smeel. And then the last one is the E1 truck that we had in the station the end of beginning of October.
That's the last one.
That's the last one, right?
Okay.
One is a mid-mount, which is the first one, the Sutphen, whereas the base is in the center of the truck. As you can tell by the drawing, it sits low, but it's really long.
Yep.
The second one is the Ferrara. It's a rear mount, which is like the other three that you'll see. They sit a little bit higher, but they're all pretty much long. This one, the Ferrara is 39 feet, 2.5 inches long. The Smeel is another rear mount, and that one is 42 feet long. And the last one, these are all 100-foot ladders. The last one is the E1. As you can tell, there's a difference between this one and the other three. It's one axle, rear axle instead of two. It maneuvers a lot tighter than the other three do because of not having the tandem axles. And out of all the trucks that we had in town, this was the one that we could get just about anywhere in town, whereas the other ones, with the Sutphen in particular, the overhang, you could be hitting something. When the rear swing out comes out, it goes really wide. When the Sutphen truck was in town, the driver for the dealer was bringing it into the church parking lot and almost hit the telephone pole next to the phone building. So that's something you have to be cognizant of.
Okay.
With the other trucks that we didn't have the Ferrara demonstrator in town. They did bring an engine. They didn't bring the ladder truck. This particular ladder truck is different than the one that's in Georgetown.
Okay.
It's a whole different cab. It's low profile. It's almost identical to the truck that they're building for the city of New York. The only difference between the two is that this one's got a second set of outriggers versus the one that New York City has. So there's one before and the axles, and
There's one midsection,
rear.
one to the
Correct.
rear tire. Okay.
That truck fits height-wise in our building, and it does get around town, but again, with the tandem rear wheels, it does take a little bit more maneuver room.
This is the E1 Metro.
The
100?
Metro is the last one.
Last
That
one.
one's the six-wheel, the E1 Metro. That's the six-wheel truck versus the 10-wheel truck.
Okay.
That one gets around as well as the two engines we have.
Now the magic question: does it fit in?
It fits height-wise. It will fit lengthwise if we take out the wall behind where the kitchen, and then for Bob's.
Where the radio room is?
No, where the second sink was put in to the kitchen for the ham and bean suppers many years ago. That section and where the water heater
So
is.
in other words, we would
Have to knock
you
those
would put it in
where engine 3 is right now.
where engine 3 is now. Okay.
It'll
and then
fit.
knock out the back wall,
Knock out the back wall.
Middle bay, yeah.
And it'll
Middle bay.
fit in there.
and then
And then we've had the demonstrator in that bay, and we got it in as far as we could, which is to the back wall. We'd have to, one of the modine heaters we'd have to move so that the ladders would.
okay. Now pulling forward, you have that post and rail fence.
It will make it around it.
They'll make the post by
Yeah.
the phone company.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we had the demonstrator in that bay, and we were able to get it in and out with no problem. We had our ladder truck in that bay too, and I didn't think that was going to fit in there.
You're talking about the bay off to the side, the
The
back?
side, right. The newer part of the building, the middle bay, is the one that'll be going in. The front bay is the doors are way too narrow and too short.
And now the real magic question: what's the price of this?
$22,000.
How much?
$22,000. Oh, for the renovation, for the truck,
Oh,
a little bit more.
Well, that was the third magic question. The second magic
I was
question.
gonna say buy it, Jim.
Yeah,
right now.
I would say hold off on it because that's how much the other one.
I must fall through the wall here.
The price on the one, we talked to the manufacturer, the dealer, $700,000.
700,000. Okay.
And the other ones, yeah, of course, the price that I found on the other ones, it's on the Mass Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts has a like a cooperative bid for ladder trucks, and through MAPC, they're the ones that operate the program for us. The contract expires the end of this year, the end of this month, so I can't really say that how much the prices are going to go up, but The cost between them, and this is based on the trucks that are on the contract, and the Ferrara truck is not the one that I have the drawing on.
Okay.
The Sutphen one is the truck that we saw. Is $683,209. The Ferrara is $649,829. The Smale is $678,509, and E1 is $689,308. And that's the base price before you start looking at what you want to put on it.
Okay.
We're looking at the truck that we saw with the stuff that we wanted to put in it. It's about $700,000, and that price will be pretty close come next year. It might be, you figure 5%.
Is there anything salvageable off the other truck?
All of the ladder pipe that we have now is salvageable. All the equipment that's on it is salvageable because it's all less than 5 years old.
Okay.
The only thing that we would be buying new is the ground ladders, and the reason for that is the ground ladders that we currently have were bought in 1990.
They're going to be beyond the safety?
10 years, the
Yeah.
the standard now is 10 years and everything gets rid of it. And they're 20-something years old right now, and they've served us well, but they're starting to show their age.
Show fatigue,
And so
naturally.
it would make sense to, if we're going to buy new ground ladders, buying it with the truck
Yeah.
would be the way to do it.
Yeah.
But all our equipment that we have is fairly new, and we're just looking at the truck.
Just
and
to
ground ladders.
inform people that are at home, they're listening to these prices that we're throwing around, that the E1 pump engine that we have, the latest one we had,
Engine 1,
engine one, that price on that was
413.
it was 413,000.
Yes.
And the one before that was
Engine 3 was 2002, and that was just a
2002.
shade under 400,000.
shade under 400,000. So just to put all this in perspective.
Most ladder trucks nowadays are up close to $1 million.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the dual axle in the rear and the single axle? Why does this one have a single and everybody else seems to have a dual?
It has to do with the ladder, the tip load of the truck. And most of these trucks also are designed to have pumps put on them. The E1 is not designed to put a pump on it. So they don't have to add the extra axle for weight distribution and braking. The ladder that we're having on the E1, fully extended off to the side, so it'd be at 0 degrees, is 350 pounds tip load, which is 150 pounds more than our truck. And if we did that with our truck right now, it would be on its side because it's not designed to go off the side. As you go up, it's 780 pounds of working tip load, which is the same as the other three. The reason for the single axle is that there was no intention of ever putting a pump on it. So,
And that's 700 pounds. You're talking about 3 firefighters.
3 firefighters, yes. Unsupported, up in the air.
Up in the air.
Or flowing water and 1 firefighter.
And you have, just to explain to everybody, as this ladder extends, there is a hose type device.
There'll be a hose running down the middle. Some of them have pre-piped.
A waterway.
Yeah, some of them have pre-piped waterways. We're not having that because it adds height to the truck, and it's another maintenance headache.
Say that again?
If you put the waterway on and pre-pipe it,
Yep.
it adds the height of the truck because the ladder has to sit higher up off the body of the truck.
Okay.
We're not having that. We're just going to use the hose like we're doing now, so it can sit lower on the truck. So we gain a couple of inches that way. And for the amount of times you actually use the waterway versus just the aerial, it's easier to do it the way we've been doing all along. And it's one less headache that I have to worry about maintenance-wise when the gaskets leak. Because when they do the aerial certification, if they leak, the truck fails.
Okay, yeah.
Did we ever come to a conclusion on how that current truck
I
got
don't
damaged?
know. I wasn't there the last fire it was used. I don't know what happened. I can say it was not done maliciously. I don't know how it happened and when it happened. I just don't know. And I don't have any way of finding out how it happened. All I know is it did happen.
How much training does the department members have specifically with a ladder truck? In other words, we're getting a really technical,
Right.
highly
That ladder
sophisticated
truck,
piece
we've
of
had
equipment.
3 classes on aerial operations. One when we first got it. A couple of years ago, we had another one with it where it spent on, what you can do with it, the severe limitations of the truck we presently have. And when we do, if and when, get a new truck, we'll have another class to go over it because things have changed so much from the truck we have now to what we have, and we all have to be taught on how its proper operation, and have another class on how to use an aerial ladder. Only the people who've gone through the class drive the truck. I just don't have anybody get in behind the wheel of it because it is so much different than everything else we have. You just can't get out of your car and get in it and drive out and think you.
No.
But there's only a handful of people that really operate it because they've been through the class and are confident with it.
Well, when you're driving a large vehicle like this, you have to be certified, to.
You should
drive something
have,
like
yes,
that.
you'd be
It's a
through the
lot more
school on how to
complex-
use it.
It's a lot
and-
more complicated than
Yes.
just getting up in the cab and then driving. I mean, I went through
Right.
mechanic motor vehicle schools. And
Yeah, if you haven't gone through any type of EVOC class or
Yep.
any type of training on that particular piece, you don't get behind the wheel.
No.
Is there ongoing training beyond, in other words, you have we
We-
buy a new truck and
Well,
then-
what we do is the EVOC we do about every 3 years, which is what's recommended. About every 5 years, we have the guy come in and give us a ladder operations class again, just to kind of refresh the older people, and then it'll give the newer people training on how to operate the vehicle. But yes, we do, and then we do a training with it about a couple times a year.
I guess my concern is if the last one got damaged in use, then obviously I'm guessing either there was a weakness in the
Well,
equipment or somebody didn't operate it correctly.
considering the age of the truck, that could very well be. The aerial itself is 28 years old. It could be. They do fatigue over time, and that's why they want them out of service after 20 years. We've actually, it shouldn't have. It shouldn't have been in service this year. It should have been retired already. However, it is what we have to deal with.
Of there are 5 vehicles or 4 vehicles? Or am I got a duplicate?
There's a duplicate. I think one on the Ferrari, it's
Ferrari, yeah.
left and right side.
Oh, okay.
If
All
I
right.
known that was, I would have
So
taken the second one out.
I got 4 ladder trucks here.
Right.
Of the 4 ladder trucks, where is your recommendation?
The E1.
The E1, which is
The last one,
the last one.
Right.
Okay, and that's
That one is because
2-axle truck.
it's a 2-axle, but it's going to get around this town far easier than the other ones are.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that we looked at, not so much the total package of ease of use in and around the town. We took them all out, all over the place, and we found that this one was the most maneuverable one out of all of them that we checked. And the other manufacturers that are out there just can't build anything.
And for those in the audience at home, I know a lot of people will, they'll, especially in a small town, they'll question, why do you need a ladder truck? And the reason is,
We have buildings that are over 3 stories high. We're sitting in one of them. We have houses that are off the street that we can't get to. You want the 100-foot reach to reach the house from the street. And we do have to carry a lot of ground ladders for even at the time that we may have a fire in a house that we can't get the ladder truck to. We have the ladders on it that we can carry to the scene because the pumpers only carry one ladder, one 24-foot ladder and a 14-foot roof ladder, which is one section that we use to hook up on the eaves of the roof so we don't fall off.
you need to get up on top.
You need to get
especially
on top, yeah.
On top of the roof, get water on top of the fire and down into
Correct,
it.
yes.
To put it on. So, I mean, I've always heard that, many people listen for, why we have a 100-foot ladder? And, well, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
And,
What was the price on that Jeep?
$700,000 for the E1.
7.
Any discussion from the board?
Yeah, give us the bad news on the station.
To do the renovation of the station, we have some asbestos that has to come out of one room, and that actually was the cheapest part of the entire thing. I thought it was going to be the most expensive. We have
Okay.
some plumbing that has to be moved, and we have a wall and a chimney that has to come down to facilitate getting the truck in there. And got all the quotes together. It's about $22,000, a little shy of $23,000 to do it.
Okay.
Now, they converted the gas there, right? With that,
Yes.
with that furnace.
What we're going to do with the water heater, there's a gas.
So that you don't really need the brick chimney anymore?
No,
per
that's
se.
that's for
You
the
use-
water heater, which we're going to take out and put a small electric one in because we don't need that big one anymore
Okay.
because we don't generate the demand for hot water like we once did. So we'll end up with a smaller electric one that'll fit in the remaining part of the kitchen.
Okay.
But all that will come out. So, and that water heater is getting time for replacement anyway. So
How many years old?
it's about 5. About 6 years we get them on them.
Yeah, 5, 6, depends.
Depends
If
on
they,
how
if
much.
they say 7 years on a water heater, you know it's gonna be 7 years and 2 days.
Yes.
Or less.
Or less.
Well, it's gonna go beyond the warranty.
Doesn't matter.
Probably
By 2
good
days.
water.
It's always 2 days after the warranty runs out.
Yeah.
That's exactly 7 years, 2 days.
No matter what the warranty is, it's 2 days later.
We've been, with our contract with the association, we pay them about $9,000 a year.
Yeah, something like that.
Have they
Yeah.
put any money into that building that I know the town replaced the cement pad over there.
Yes.
Is there any other, I mean, we pay the heat, the light, the electricity. What I'm looking at, trying to get around is, I mean, I'm not too happy about having to spend $23,000 in that rotten station over there. Is there some way we can sit down with them and, I mean, it's their building,
I'm sure if we sit down,
and if they haven't spent any real money over there, I'm not sure where the.
I'm sure if we sit down with them, I imagine they can agree to do something, but I can't speak for
Okay.
them.
All right.
And this leads into how do we stand, have you been looking at station plans for?
I've been working on it. I've got my final draft done. I'm redoing, well, it's one of these things, you start with it, and then there's a week that you can't get to it. I finally got my ideas down, and I'm doing a final draft to make sure it flows, and it explains what I'm trying to get across. And I hope to have it done this week. If I have a day like today, it won't. Probably be early next week.
Okay, we're gonna have to really start looking at this and address the latter situation. It's something that we're gonna have to return to, the board's gonna have to return to and look at this. I would say, what do you think, Bob, 1st of January?
Yeah, I'll get through the holidays at this
Through the
point,
holidays.
and then try to get serious about it.
Yeah, I think we really have to address this problem. And I think we need to talk with the association also. So,
I think it's a valuable tool to the town. Right now, we got one out of service.
Right.
The ladder's no good.
You can't use the ladder. I
Can't
can,
use it.
in the event I have to get the equipment on it out there, I'll use it, but it's basically out of service right now.
yeah, another question. If we order this, okay, we go to town meeting and everything else, and we appropriate the funds and everything else, how long? What's the,
It's not an easy question to answer. Depending on if there's one on the production line already that they're
Right.
building, that wouldn't take much change to make it fit what we're looking at. It could be fairly quick.
this is a standardized engine, not like the other engines, or is this?
Well, actually, the other engines have become standard sizes now.
Oh, they have, okay, well, that's.
Because there's such a need for it that they make them that way now. It's not like when we first got them.
We had to have it customized.
Right now, it's one of their
Well, that's good.
models that they regularly push out now. All of them
I knew
have
Raleigh
come up.
blazed the way on this.
All of the manufacturers started coming up with the smaller trucks because we're not the only ones with the problems. No, this one is basically other than specific options that we may put on it. That's a production truck.
Okay.
That's there's no You're not adding length to it. You're not add that. That's it.
So what is the idea of time frame?
It could be 6 months. It could be a year. I don't have an if.
Okay, you don't have.
I don't know if there's one on the production line that hasn't been too far into it that they could add things to it. It'd be faster.
Okay.
If it's something that that they don't have anything on the line, it could be up to a year.
All right, I think we need some questions added to give you, Chief, so that you can go and, before we meet again, that you can come back and, like production questions and everything else, because I think rapidly we need to really look at this as a board, to protect the town. That's what we're here for, so.
Okay.
Is this the only truck that has, assuming we're looking at this Metro 100, we have to write a set of specs? Is this the only one that has a single axle in the rear?
100-foot, yes. One of the things that we...
It's almost looking at a sole source.
Yeah, one of the things
Right?
that's with the bid that I was mentioning, FCAM bid, it's a state bid price, so we don't have to sit down and write. They have
Oh, okay. I mean, this engine's available under the state bid?
Right, just look at it
Okay.
and say, okay, this is a set price, these are the options, fill out the ones you want, and this
So
is
we
the
don't have
price.
to go out to bid.
Don't have to go out to
Oh,
bid.
Like
okay.
the highway,
Yeah, that
you
was
buy
my
a
question.
truck.
Yeah, which saves us a whole lot of time.
Police
Yeah.
department and all that, buy the cruisers under.
Yeah, it's same
state bid.
thing. It's the same
So
thing
we
as the
don't have to-
cruisers.
Why don't we talk, Chief, have you come back in, so let's plan for the 6th of January, okay?
Okay, do you have specific things you want?
Well, I think we will add some stuff, that, some questions, and I think one of them is production. How long in production?
Okay.
I think one of the other questions we need to ask is how fancy do we want to get with the options?
Well, the options that we're looking at aren't elaborate by any stretch of the imagination. One of them is a speedometer over the officer's seat, the brake in the middle of the engine housing, which is the same as the two engines that we have. That's what we've been doing. The one thing that we've been playing with, because the safety issues, is airbags and anti-rollover devices. And that basically, on-spot chains and a brake retard is what we're looking at. We're not looking at, you have the base truck and there'll just be some things added onto it.
Because I noticed one of the options here was LED lights and stuff
LED
like that.
The price of those, they last longer, they're cheaper, and engine one's got the LED lights on it right now. It's the way to go now.
Power-wise, too.
This is
Power-wise,
this
there's no.
is scene lights and ladder
Yep.
climbing lights, but it is as an option. But
Yeah, the ladder climbing lights, we've toyed with it, but we don't know if that's something. Again, it's an option. It's like $500.
but that, obviously the price makes a difference too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we talk with the salesman, this is this is down and dirty.
Okay,
We're not looking to.
I have nothing against options,
me either.
as long as there's a payback.
Yes. Whatever options we have, there's a reason for it, and it's mainly safety.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
you mentioned it on the LED lights. Less maintenance.
Yeah.
They last long. You don't have to worry about bulbs or lamps or anything like that. So.
Less
to me-
draw on the electrical system,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
will be less maintenance in the end.
So, to me, that's a payback. So, I mean, that's the way we need to look at it.
Could we also check, and I don't know whether you would do it, or maybe the town administrator could do it, is to determine financing arrangements. I think the fire engines we've done a 5-year this is a lot more expensive. Are we looking at a 10-year
Yeah.
loan, or?
Well, the one thing,
or what are we looking at?
if we're
That's
looking,
gonna be important for the taxpayers,
Yeah,
too.
the other
That's what
thing
I'm
with
looking
a 10-year versus a 5, we do have engine 4, which is an 87 pumper.
Yes.
That's should have been replaced this year, but
That's
we're
right.
going to.
That's the Han.
That's the Han,
Uh-huh.
and that one's 20. That's an 87, so that's pushing the envelope too.
Right.
So if we put off a 10 years, and ideally it would have been pay the truck off and go for the next one, you'd still be paying the ladder truck off and be looking for the engine.
So I mean, the ladder truck, we're talking a 20-year.
They're all going to
Truck.
be 20-year trucks, and what it would end up is if we did it 20 years on all of them, every 5 years you're going to be
That's
replacing
right.
something.
Well, anyway, if you could take a look at the financing options,
Financing.
because that's gonna be an important part of
Okay.
selling to the
A-
public,
any
for
other-
sure.
Comments from the board, thoughts?
No.
Dave, you can think of anything else?
No, you know, the timing is tough because we're looking at stations and
Yeah.
we're looking at a lot of big ticket items that we're gonna need to build and finance the next couple of years, so.
Oh.
And if we're talking another fire engine on top of this one, it's just, the financial burden in the next few years is gonna be tough, real tough. And it's gonna be a real tough selling at the election, because we're gonna need an override, so I mean, there's a lot of homework to be
Yeah.
done here in terms of, it'd be one thing to put this whole package together, and town meeting generally will pass it, and then it goes to the election, and so we really gotta have everything in place, and all our ducks in a row, and all the questions answered, and then do a big publicity campaign, because it's gonna,
Well, this right here, this is, I think, all the people in the town understand this is for their protection. And this is crucial. These are items that you just need to have.
Yes.
It's the same thing as
There's too much
in your
property
house,
in the
that you have
town.
certain things in your house that you need to have. And, for protection or for living. And fire engines, a ladder truck is one of those things.
All right, so how long in delivery? What other questions specific to the manufacturing would you like to have answered, so I can talk to the salesman and get these answers?
I use time frame.
Okay.
What was it again? Financing, time frame,
Options.
options.
yeah, why don't you take a look at this particular truck and talk to the manufacturer and say, okay, this is, I mean, we understand it's the pricing you would be getting would be based on if we bought it today, and we're not gonna buy it today, but
No, the price he gave me was,
But take a look at the options that you want to add, so that when you
Yeah,
come in,
and this-
you'll have an idea of, okay, it's going to be
right, I
X
can
amount is
find
due.
out X amount, yeah, I can get that from him.
And then we'll look at the financing.
There is an angle that I'm gonna try, I won't say what it is right now, because I don't know if it'll happen, but to kind of speed up this thing, that if,
What I'm
If
looking
it's
at here is
available.
these are basic options.
that was,
These, I mean, there's options, but basic to the truck.
They do list some options on that.
Custom chassis, aerial features, body construction, electrical.
yeah, those are all, that's
These are
basic
basics.
stuff, yeah.
Okay, I think we need to, maybe ask some questions about options. And
Like I said, the options that we were looking at,
something I missed?
Now, there are options under.
on the
each
bottom,
Okay.
on the electrical, there's LED scene lights, ladder climbing lights, and the generator. We were looking at the lower end generator, the 6 kW, because we're going with the LED lights, the scene
Right.
lights, which is a less of a draw, so it's a less money for the generator. We still need a need for a generator, but we don't need as big of one. So there's a big drop in the price on.
Those generators slide out from the compartments.
The particular ones that they're going out now, they still have those, but you lose a compartment space. They're
Right.
called hydraulic generators that run off the transmission, and they
Okay.
sit up in the top of the truck where you're normally not at anyway. And engine 3 and engine 1, that's where their generators are sitting up
So
on
it's
the top.
part of the engine itself?
It's separate. It's just runs off the drive. They have a PTO that comes off the
PTO, power
transmission,
takeoff unit?
and that's what
Okay.
powers it.
Okay.
So it runs off the engine, but it runs a hydraulic clutch, so
Okay.
to speak.
All right.
Do you know which engine they quoted us?
The ISL, the standard
It's
engine,
450?
the 450. That's what the demonstrator had in it, and we were all over town. It's the same engine. It's an engine 1.
Okay, so there's no real...
More than enough power.
Good.
We don't need the big engine, which would have increased the price by about 25 grand
Yeah, that's what I was
because of the
thinking.
transmission and the drive line.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a standard engine what we're having,
Good.
and we were very happy with it. That
Okay.
was a big question that we had,
Yeah.
and we were glad to have the demonstrator in here to see how it
Just how
went
much-
up to
just how much
Seaview
power.
and
Well, Seaview and Havel
Forest
Street, too.
Ridge, Havel Street. We had it all over the place.
Yeah. I
Okay,
thought we'd
so
put an
Chief,
issue.
we will see you back in here on the 6th of
Okay.
January. Okay, for more discussions on the engine, I mean, the ladder.
I should have those answers, except for the financing. I can get a financing thing from them, but I think the town can do better. then
Yeah, well, I'll get together with the chief, we'll go over,
Okay.
we'll get in financial team and talk about it.
And I would recommend, I don't know if you're probably already gonna do it, but optional safety features would probably be something we should.
we're strongly looking at that because it's the right thing to do.
Absolutely.
Because if something happens, if we don't have
Whatever
anybody,
small price is worth it.
in the long run, it's pay me now. We figured it'd be the right thing to do, and
Okay.
they'll probably be within a couple of years standard features anyway. But we think it makes sense to have them.
All right, chief, thank you very much for coming in
Okay,
tonight.
have a good night.
All right, good night
Thank
now.
you.
All right. It's 8:44? Okay, moving on, general business. General business, we have liquor license renewals. Okay, December 9th. The following have submitted liquor license renewal applications for calendar year 2014. The Raleigh Country Club has submitted a request to change the starting time that they sell beer and wine from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. Monday through Saturday, and the starting time on Sunday remaining at 11 a.m. The board should vote on this request before voting on the renewal applications. Taxes, lights, water bills are paid. Okay, so any discussion on that first?
The country club, do we know if there's been any complaints made about the country club at this point? I know we had a somewhat contentious hearing when we issued that license.
I've heard nothing with respect to the country club liquor license, the operation down there for the golfing,
Okay.
Okay.
nothing.
No, I personally.
The selectmen would have received it if we.
Yes.
Yeah,
we
and
put something in the
I just
office.
wanted to double check on it. I don't have any problem changing it by an hour.
No. Want to vote this on sections here?
This
Or do
is
that?
seasonal too, right?
That's seasonal, isn't it?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
one
this is a
starts,
seasonal, and it's consistent apparently with the rest of the pouring licenses issued in the town, right?
Right.
That's the same time frame that you've issued for other pouring liquor license holders.
Any other discussion on the first one? Raleigh Country Club?
I'll make that motion.
We have a
Second.
motion, have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Section 12, restaurants. Raleigh Veterans Association, Spuds, Royal Orchid, American Barbecue, Off the Vine, Bradford Tavern, El Tapatio, Raleigh Country Club, and again, I'm sorry, we'll start again. Raleigh Veterans Association, 19 Bradford Street, Spuds, 255 Newburyport Turnpike, Royal Orchid, 303B Havel Road, American Barbecue, 5 Railroad Avenue, Off the Vine, 150 Newburyport Turnpike, Bradford Tavern, 85 to 89 Bradford Street, El Tapatio, 300 Newburyport Turnpike, Raleigh Country Club, 230, well, we already voted that one.
Well, no.
No.
No,
we
well,
did, we
250,
changed the hours.
we changed the hours, okay. 235 Dodge Road.
I'll give you the motion.
I have a motion, do I have a
Second.
second? I have a second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Liquor stores and convenience stores. Galbro Incorporated, DBA Route 1 Liquors, 174 Newburyport Turnpike, Raleigh Liquors, George Diegas, 144 Newburyport Turnpike, Raleigh Enterprises, DBA Skips Country Store, 801 Haverhill Street, Easy LLC, 300 Newburyport Turnpike.
I'll give you a motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, that's takes care of general business number 1. Moving on to general business number 2. Class 2 dealer license renewals. The following owners have submitted Class 2 dealers license renewals for calendar year 2014. Applications are complete for list below, and taxes, light, and water bills are paid. Daria Litvinava. Auto Imports Unlimited Incorporated, 357 Main Street. Donald Savory and Mark Savory, Bay Road Auto Sales, 56 Newburyport Turnpike. Donald Savory, Mark Savory, Bay Road Auto Sales, 588 Main Street. Thomas Boucher, Boucher Automotive Machine Shop Incorporated, 239 Haverhill Street. Tim Slattery, Camping World Leasing, 274 Newburyport Turnpike. Frank Ivanella and James Price, Car Lines, 185 Newburyport Turnpike. Gino Tesouris, Gino's Collision Incorporated, 274 Newburyport Turnpike. Fred Hardy, Hardy's Auto Body, 68 Bradford Street. Mark Roulette, M&J Foreign Car Incorporated, 415 Newburyport Turnpike. Dale and Roy Ducrow, Raleigh Auto Brokers, 27 Cross Street. Josephine Bornstein, D&D Auto Sales, 185 Newburyport Turnpike. William Pierce, Willie P's Classics, 266 Haverhill Street, rear. Tim Watkins, Precision Auto, DBA, Precision Volvo, 16 Main Street. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, could
Yes.
we vote separately the two Savory licenses?
Okay,
Before
we will vote everything except the two Savory license. Anybody else have any other problem? Okay.
I'll give you the motion of
You have the motion for everything except
everything
for
except the two Savory.
two Savories.
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Now, for the two Savory licenses.
You want to do those individually?
No, they can be done together.
They can
as
be done
a
together.
pair, but I want to recuse myself.
Oh, okay.
So do you
I'll
have,
make a motion to
for the two
approve
Savory
the two
licenses?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I
Okay.
recuse myself.
Okay. Debbie, anything else on that we need to cover?
Are these other two
Class
down
two.
at the,
So, yes, actually, we're all set now, because
Oh,
I was making the packages this afternoon, and Mr. Cuddy came in from Hamilton Enterprise.
yes,
His bond did come in. So
okay.
he's on the lower list here. At the time of this preparation of this document, this afternoon, it had not come in. So it is in,
So,
so he's ready to be approved.
I'll make
He's
a
ready.
motion to approve Cuddy.
okay, William Cuddy, Hamilton Enterprises, Used Card LLC, 264 Newburyport Turnpike. I have a motion.
second?
I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Lockhart's?
So, with Mr. Lockhart, we are waiting for the bond, and there is some taxes.
Okay,
The board could approve this conditionally, and, and we can hold this until, it expires
Okay.
on December 31st, or we can bring it up next week or the week after.
I just, with the taxes owed in particular, I think we should put it off in another week or two. We got time. It's not like this
Okay.
is the last day of the.
Yeah, no, we have 2 more meetings scheduled for
Okay.
this
Do you
month.
want to vote it? Do you
No, I'd just like to postpone it
want to
until-
postpone it? Okay.
Okay.
Particularly with the taxes owed. I think
Okay.
it's important.
we'll postpone it. Good idea. Okay, moving on. General business number 3. Class 3 dealer licenses renewals. Okay, the following owners have submitted Class 3 dealers license renewals for calendar 2014. Class 3 dealers license renewal. Raleigh Auto Parts, Michael Bontos, 164 Boxford Road, Raleigh. And this applicant has provided a complete application and the $200 renewal fee. There isn't. Okay.
I move we postpone this
We'll
one.
postpone this one also. Okay. And we can come back to this. Raleigh Auto Salvage Incorporated, Donald and Mark Savory, 588 Main Street, Raleigh. All water, light, and tax bills have been paid. for
I'll
this
move the
business.
motion. I'll move it to approve.
I have a motion, a
Second.
second. I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Okay.
recuse myself.
Okay, moving on to auto auction permit renewals. Okay, the following owners have submitted auto auction license renewals for calendar year 2014. Auto auction,
2013.
I'm sorry, 2014.
Or it should be 2000. Oh, okay.
Okay,
Sorry about that.
that's okay. It's the end of the year. Raleigh Auto Parts, Michael Bontos, 164 Boxford Road, Raleigh. I'm reading as I'm doing this below. Okay, so this seems to be something
I'll move
outstanding.
we postpone this one for the
Postpone
same
this.
reason we did the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. We'll come back to look at that. Okay. Moving on to general business number 5, proclamation for Carolyn Peabody. Okay. And I'll read this proclamation into the record. We, the Board of Selectmen of the Town of Raleigh, Massachusetts, by virtue of the authority vested in us by the people of Raleigh as elected officials, do hereby proclaim Carolyn Peabody, having faithfully served in the exemplary manner as Council on Aging Administrative Assistant for 10 years, and on the occasion of her retirement from this service, the Board of Selectmen wishes to bestow its most sincere gratitude and best wishes. We urge all citizens of the town of Raleigh, its community leaders, business, government officials to recognize this achievement and service. In witness wherefore, we have hereby set our hands and seal of the town of Raleigh this 9th day of December 2013. Chairman Robert Snow, G. Robert Murray, Vice Chair, Joseph Perry, Clerk, Jack Cook, and Dave Peterson, Selectmen. So, gentlemen, do I have a...
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
I have a second. Discussion? And we wish Carolyn all the very best for all her years of service to the Council on Aging. It's been very important over there what she does, and we thank her so much for her work. And tomorrow there's a tea between, or there's
10:30 noon.
10:30 to noon. And again, Carolyn, if you're home, thank you so much for all the work you've done over there at the Council on Aging. It means so much. And again, we can't say enough.
Exactly.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
There we go, Bob. Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, moving on to old business. State reimbursement for special election for U.S. Senate election. The town has received $3,662 from the state to offset the cost of special Senate election. The town accountant, Sue Bailey, is recommending that the funds be posted as FY13 general fund receipts and close its fee cash. Debbie agrees with Sue. The Board of Selectmen needs to vote to authorize funds to be posted to the general fund.
I'll give it a motion.
Second.
Motion of a second. A discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Okay, moving on to old business number 2. Update on Leslie Road traffic. In response to the concerns from Leslie Road resident about the traffic on Leslie Road, the Highway Department has installed several signs on Leslie Road. The signs say, speed limit 25 miles an hour, strictly enforced. Children do not, strictly enforced. Children do not drink and drive, and speed check by radar signs. Additionally, the police department has reported that since November 1, 2013, they have stopped 3 vehicles for speeding on Leslie Road. I've been in contact with the highway surveyor last week several times, and Ron went out there and he placed these signs out on Leslie Road. I drove the road last week, and I drove it this morning. And you can plainly see these signs as soon as you come over from the Ipswich side. They're plainly there. So, also been in contact with the chief. and there's a police presence out on Leslie Road. So it's important, especially at this road at this particular time, as we have the resident that came in here and complained before the board. So, Dave, you travel that road at all with the bus?
Yeah, well, I'm up and down there quite a bit. It's just one of those roads that, it is what it is, and the police department does patrol it on a fairly regular basis. I've seen the cruisers out there. I think that's about all we can do at this point.
That's it. So, we'll keep an eye on it, Leslie Road, as we proceed. We, taking some proactive measures here, and we'll come back and revisit this again if need be. All right. All right. So, moving on to that's it for old business. Discuss new business. Discuss farmer winery pouring license. Okay. The ABCC has notified the town that Mill River Winery has obtained a farmer winery pouring permit from the Board of Selectmen. The legislature passed a law last summer requiring farm wineries such as Mill River to obtain a new farm winery pouring permit if the establishment provides or changes the wine samples. The ABCC has informed the town that the farmer wineries in the town must cease and desist providing, selling wine samples until they have obtained a farmer series pouring permit. The ABCC issues the farmer winery non-pouring permit directly to the farmer. The town is the licensing authority for the farmer series pouring permit. To address the situation, the Board of Selectmen needs to vote on the new Farmer Series pouring permit application process. The process follows the state requirements the town has on other alcoholic licenses. 2. Board of Selectmen needs to set a fee structure for the renewal of the new permit. The application fee is set by the state and is a payment made directly to the ABCC. This will be effective in 2015. 3. Board of Selectmen needs to send a letter to Mill River Winery informing them the ABCC's directive to the town as stated above in the copy of the Farmer Series pouring permit application. Okay, new liquor license procedures for all types of licenses. 1, the applicant.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
I
You don't have
think
to read
you've.
that.
I'm gonna read
I
that.
just
That's
wanted
part of
to
the
give
law.
this as informational.
I think there was some question about the fee.
Yeah,
what
this
the
was
fee
just to
should
give
be.
you an
Those are-
idea of what the town is charging for the renewal fees. And a renewal fee wouldn't kick in this case until 2015 because the business in question would need to get the permit first. And we simply just have them fill out the paperwork, follow the process, file the $200 fee to the state, and then when they renew in a year, just like you just did this evening,
Okay.
that fee is the town renewal fee.
Now, is this in addition to the liquor license that they have?
Yes, farmer wineries and breweries and distilleries have always been, handled directly by the ABCC. So we actually never even got a list.
Never got a
We wouldn't even know
fees
No.
or nothing.
or have any
No, we don't
information
have
on
nothing
it.
to do with
The legislature passed this law this summer now, requiring them if they provide a wine sample or a charge for a sample or for tasting,
Mhm.
that now they're considered pouring, which, is somewhat, when you look at a package store that has wine tastings, frequently, they don't have to have a pouring license, they have the package license, so they're more or less trying to treating it, even though it's unique, almost as a beer and wine pouring license, and we only have one of those, and that's the country club.
Mhm.
And, I mean, our hands are tied.
I would throw out maybe $100 fee. I mean, they're not making money off of wine pourings and tasting. There's no real cost to us as far as just processing the paperwork. And I think they run a very nice
Yes, they do.
operation out there. They seem to do a pretty good business, and I think
Now,
to put a higher fee would discourage.
well, I agree, Dave. But I'm also thinking about I want to look down the pike here. If somebody else is somebody else in town is pouring and pays in, you know, a much higher rate, okay? And are they gonna come back and say, why are you charging this person?
Well, this is a farmer, though.
Well-
You have to be a farmer winery, not,
Okay.
you know what I mean? This is,
I just
This is
wanna, I wanna.
unique.
it's unique and
Right.
it's different than somebody, you know, serving in a restaurant or a bar or.
I just want to make
something
sure,
like that.
as we proceed, that we do this properly, and that we don't, you know, we kind of look at every aspect of this, and not just run in and assign a fee, and maybe have a problem down the road, you know.
So the fee structure would kick in 2015 anyway.
It would be 2015, we'd have have time.
If this business applies now, gets the license, and comes back for renewal. So, but we do need some type of, the ABC is telling us we need to have a fee structure.
Is there a
in place.
limit, as they pour, okay, to a wine tasting? Is there a limit, like, so many ounces? Well, I don't know, I don't know how
No,
large.
we follow through on that question today.
Okay.
Yes, they can serve a glass of wine.
They
So
can
now
serve
it
a
can,
glass of wine.
it's, it will be treated just as if it
But
was.
they
a-
can't charge you.
Well, if you go in
Oh,
there.
yes,
if-
they do charge
Yeah, they
now.
charge.
Yeah.
Okay, now, see, this is why I want to ask this question. They can pour a whole glass of wine.
No, they're small.
No, that's what I mean.
No,
That's-
no,
no.
under this law, under this permit, they can serve a full glass of wine.
They can.
Amy spoke to the director of the
Okay.
Oh,
ABCC
really?
today and clarified
It
that.
doesn't limit them to a 1 ounce
We were
glass.
not, we were
Oh,
not
they always
there.
give you a little,
Well,
Well, yeah,
because
yeah.
they're giving it away basically at this point.
Yeah, the tasting deal.
So
well, make it $200 fee.
well,
Well,
Well, you're complying
I
here,
think-
the others are all 8, Dave.
Yeah, but I mean, they're making,
Off-premise wine and malt retail
Right.
store that covers them. I mean,
I,
well, it's on premises, wine and malt pouring is $8.50.
That's the only
Right.
one we have is the country club right
Okay.
now. They're all full pouring.
all right.
So I
So
mean,
obviously they're not, it's not a
it
restaurant.
says to me,
and it's-
Bob, with your concern, is that's what they would be held under, because they can pour
They can pour
on premises.
on premises a full glass of wine.
Yes.
Okay. Now,
that fee is
it's-
$8.50, right?
It's, right.
If you
wait
go
a s-
cutting prices, these people are gonna say, what,
That, exactly.
You know,
That-
I
this
mean,
is, this is what I'm thinking.
but we
of.
don't have to deal this now till next year, right? We don't
No,
have
well,
to
the ABCC
establish.
told us to establish some type of formal fee structure. It's, won't
No.
come up till the renewal period, but.
Right, now,
15.
after 2015, that same fee will go to the ABCC?
No, the only, what we do now is a new applicant is not charged by the town for a local fee.
Okay,
They have to pay the state anyway, the $200, and it's been the
$200.
selectmen's preference to not charge for a local fee until the renewal period comes up, because the renewal period requires a lot of paperwork and between the ABCC, the town, the Department of Revenue, the local taxes, all the town bills are paid. So, and there's inspections on pouring licenses that have to be done by the building inspector and the fire chief. So there is an amount of work that goes into the renewal. There is some on the application process, but it's been the selectmen's preference not to charge a local fee on top of the $200 state fee. Once it's approved, the renewal period will come up in a year from now.
and then we charge what
Then the
we're
fee that
charging
the
now.
selectmen set for this new category
Category.
will be required as part of the renewal.
Okay, now, going back, Jack, you're kind of following my logic here. You pour a glass of wine, okay? And then some other establishment in town is gonna say, well, how come you get at a cut fee, and why am I spending so much for a liquor license? Say $850 for a liquor license, and you're setting a fee at this particular point. Now, it's a delicate,
well, it says,
and I want, you know,
Well, the other thing too, Mr. Chairman, is that they're selling bottles, like a regular
Right.
pouring, or say Route 1 liquors. You go in there, you buy wine, or you buy, this is only strictly wine.
right,
But they're still selling the product. And they're just paying the fee to the state. Am I right now?
That's right, they're exempt
So-
from the town.
My feeling is that they should be paying the regular fee, the $850. You get 2 full liquor stores and whatever, and the other one is, what would Skips be under?
Their off-premise wine and malt retail package at 800.
800. Yeah.
So they're not pouring on site, that's why.
Right.
No, but they're still, no, I know that one, Bob, but the other one, this one here, they are as well.
Well, I think
You
that's the
wouldn't get a
category,
taste.
that's the category they would fall under. It's
Yeah.
on-premises wine and malt pouring, is what's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah, right.
The question that I have, though, is this in addition to their regular license?
Yes.
So they're already paying the 800 or the...
No.
Oh,
No.
No, they charge, the ABCC regulates farmer
200,
winery,
right?
and they pay $40 a year to the state,
40?
to the state.
What's this
well, 200 is
200?
the initial application.
That's an application
Okay,
fee
yeah.
regardless for any type of application that comes before the board for a liquor license. So they pay $40 to the state. We would not really know, we had no authority or anything. This is the first involvement that the town has had for farmer winery, if we had a brewery or a distillery in the town as well. So the new law is requiring the towns and saying once a farmer winery, and Amy had many detailed conversations with the director of the ABCC, once they open the bottle and give a sample, either charging for it or not, they must cease and desist until they get the permit through the town, the local licensing authority, and then it goes on to the ABCC for approval. They're saying they cannot give out samples under the new law
Free, or anyway.
at all until
or
they
so,
have this.
Right,
So they're gonna have 2 permits. They have to have one just to sell the bottled wine,
right.
and they can't give out samples. Yet if you go to, in any number of liquor stores, they'll have a wine sampling,
Right.
they'll have it scheduled, and a package store, and they don't have to have them
Yeah,
pouring.
because they're
from it.
covered.
Well,
But I
they're
mean,
not covered as pouring, they're off premise, but they're allowed under the law to have samples, but they don't have to have a pouring license.
Right.
Now,
And the state already makes a distinction and with this lower fee. So, why would we have a problem in charging a lower fee?
No, I think the board just needs to discuss it. The
Well,
ABCC.
that's why I wanted to
told
discuss
us
this.
Most towns are following the off-premise, the on-premise beer and wine pouring. Most towns are. It's not that we have to, they just said as a guideline, we asked, well, what do we compare this to?
Yeah.
Because we either have businesses that are pouring or not pouring, and we don't, now this is like, you go in, it's an off-premise business that's now has to be regulated for giving out samples, and they can serve glasses of wine and charge for that, but, so now they have these 2 permits.
Well, I think in the.
But it's not anything you have to, it's just an idea, they said.
But it's on under the on-premise.
They said most municipalities have followed the beer and wine on-premise, which is the only one we have is the country club.
Well, it says that they come to our attention in the memorandum that you attached, that Mill River Winery is selling 1-ounce samples of their wine. In other words, you go into wine, you say, gee, I'd like to try that wine, and if you like it, you buy the bottle.
right.
So, I mean, they're not selling beer, they're not selling, people are not, I suppose technically you could, but people are just tasting to take the bottle home, not to stand there at the bar and drink for 2 hours.
Exactly.
So, I
it would
mean,
be
it's not,
different.
the intent is not to be selling over-the-counter wine, it's to get people to take the stuff home, I mean.
Yeah, it wouldn't, so in the other hand, the country club is, offering selections to eat, it's giving you a patio to sit down, and a vista to look out upon. This, you're really going in.
But-
I mean, there's no malt, so maybe make it a half the price of a beer and wine, make it just wine,
Yeah,
make it
it's-
4 1/4 or something. I mean, it just seems to me that, it's a selling feature for the wine, is not the intent to get people to come in there and drink
Sure.
a couple of glasses of wine and then go on their way, you know what I mean?
But
Right.
they can
Well, they
pour a
technically
glass
could,
of
yeah.
wine.
We wanted to get that clarified, because the question had come up by the chairman, so we did, and they said, sure, that it can be, and the application permit process is just as rigorous as it is for any
Right.
pouring license,
Yeah, you know,
there's
sure.
background checks now that will have to be done, because obviously anyone serving alcohol has to
Right.
have the background check.
All right,
So
all right.
it's gonna, and the state does that.
I think to answer Joe's question, what we're dealing with, Joe, is two different fees.
Yeah.
Right,
The $200 fee is an application fee.
right.
What we're talking about is the actual pouring fee or sale fee
Correct.
for a licensed package store or distributor.
I'm just saying, if they went and they poured a glass of wine, okay? Because the law says they can pour a glass of wine. And if somebody, another person in town with a license, on-premise wine and malt, who pays $850, do you see there may be a repercussion down the line here? They may come back on, why are you charging this lesser price?
Well, I know exactly where you're going, and I
Right.
understand the logic perfectly.
Okay.
The only thing is that I'd like to set up a separate category and not have it come under the on-premise wine and malt pouring, and have it come under the farmer winery pouring permit,
Right.
and set that as a separate fee.
Yeah, that would, I
And
think that's the
separate
way, I
category.
think that's what the
And we-
process would be.
Now, we can set that as the town?
No, yes, that's
Yeah,
the
we
whole
said-
point
okay,
here.
all right, I
I
just
don't know
wanna make sure that-
what you want. The research showed a lot of towns
So we
were
can-
putting it under there, but that doesn't have to be the case.
Right.
Okay.
Well, it's the only category we have at this point. that
We're
matches that.
looking to add a category
It's-
tonight.
yeah.
Wait, add, that's right.
It will be a separate category, it's just you need to come up with a fee, that's all,
Right,
for
okay.
renewal fee, that's all.
Is the amount of work to process these licenses that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, we got 5 of them now, 5 different categories. If we add a 6th category, is the processing work to do those licenses gonna be basically the same as those other 5?
Certainly, it is by law a separate category anyway, so
Right.
it doesn't matter, it's gonna
But I
be a
mean,
separate
the
farmer
actual
winery.
physical work that we
No,
have to
this-
do, that the town has to do to process these licenses, to do all of the not the background checks, but to check on the payments of the bills and so forth and so on. It's the same amount of work.
Sure, it's,
And in the past, we've determined that that type of license, the one that's number 2, costs us about $850 to do that work.
well, the selectmen had set these fees years ago, Bob,
Well, I know, I
They're
understand,
subject
but
to change.
It's not based on
I don't
cost,
really know.
because if it's the same work for all these licenses, for a veterans club, it's 500, for an all-premises lounge, it's 1,500, it's the same paperwork for both.
Yeah, except the
So that-
pouring have different, we have to check and get the liquor liability insurance, we have
Right.
to have the certificates, have
so
to
they're
be
not
submitted
necessarily all the
by
same.
by the fire chief and the building inspector. So there's a higher level for, the pouring licenses than there are for the package. But, yeah, it's a new category, and it's, if the board's not ready to make a decision on that, that's fine tonight. We can take it up another time. We wanted to make sure you had it. The more urgent matter is that we need approval from the selectmen on an application package and a letter to go to this business as soon as possible.
Right.
And that's why we sent this memo out to the selectmen last week.
Can I ask the board, do you feel, I like to table this for a week and then come back and just, and look at it.
Well,
And,
no, I agree with you, Bob, and if we're going to do what Debbie just suggested, that we send a letter to them, which we have to do.
right,
The first question that they're gonna ask is, what's the fee?
right,
So we need to settle the fee as we do that,
okay,
I think.
yeah. I
Well,
think-
Yeah, this is the holiday season, so they're probably gonna be selling a lot of wine up there, and they're gonna,
Absolutely,
But this fee will be a renewal fee for a year from now.
Right.
The
Not now.
application fee is in the form here, which you have in your package. It's $200 to the state.
$200,
That's
okay.
non-negotiable.
Right.
Right.
all right,
So what I need is the board to authorize us to present the application. We've created a new category. Amy has written this whole process out to get the application to them with a letter from the Board of Selectmen saying that it's a requirement under the statute that they obtain a pouring, farmers series pouring permit. And it's because we have to have a hearing and a butter notification, there's a lot that goes into this in order
So, I
for
mean,
them
that
to.
just adds more cost, so, I mean,
But the cost is,
Yeah, but that's initial cost,
It's
it
the-
isn't gonna be the renewal cost. We're talking about renewal.
the
fees.
selectmen have not charged a local fee for an application. These are renewal fees that will be coming in a year from now.
Okay, before that, the state was taking them, is that right?
No, the state has always, the state charges $200. Some municipalities have a local application fee.
Okay.
An administrative fee that we do not charge. The fees that we're talking about tonight will be a renewal fee for calendar year 2015.
Right.
Right.
So if we vote tonight, we'll vote on the administrative, the paperwork of the $200 fee, correct?
No.
Well, no, that's non-negotiable. The
Non-negotiable.
Board of Selectmen needs to, first of all, establish the category of the Farmer Series pouring permit as a new liquor license, and
Let's go
approve
back
our
and follow the
template here.
directions.
Well, what you want from us
And
tonight
get it-
is
so we can get
establish,
an application out
you
and
want
have
us to
a letter.
establish
Right.
new permit. And also vote to send the winery a letter with the application.
Okay.
Right, and we have to establish, and we should
And then
establish the fee.
then we
But
can
Let's go.
wait on a renewal fee, because we're not gonna, that isn't gonna take effect until
15.
2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
just to
number
get
one,
the
the
thing
Board of
out.
Selectmen needs to vote on the new Farmer Series pouring permit application process. The process follows the state requirements the town has for other alcohol licenses. So,
I'll make that
moved.
motion.
I have a motion.
Second?
Second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Board of Selectmen needs to set a fee structure for renewal. That,
If you want to, yeah, you don't have to
We
do
can
it
table
tonight.
that.
let's table that.
Now, let me ask a question.
Okay.
It was stated by, I believe, Bob Murray, or it could have been you, that you're going to send a letter to the winery, and you're not going to tell them what the renewal fee is?
Well, the
No renewal fee
No,
for 2
be a-
years.
That will be for
Next,
2015.
New one.
a year from
Yeah,
this,
a year from now.
this
Yeah.
December.
That will be
Right.
effective 2015.
That's when it's effective.
Right.
Yeah.
But
But
you're not
Covered
gonna,
right now, Joe.
we're not gonna send,
The
we're
selectmen
just
have-
gonna send them a
the
letter.
selectmen could change the renewal fee in 2015 for all of these, for
Yeah,
all
Right.
we
we
know.
can change
So
that.
I
Right.
really don't know, it's never, it hasn't come up in many years, so that's something that's the
We can
selectmen.
put right in the
can do.
letter that the renewal fee is to be determined by the Board of
Well,
Selectmen.
Right.
exactly.
Mr.
Okay.
Chairman, I would,
Just, because this guy, in other words, this establishment needs to do this right away, because
Yes.
they want to start pouring as soon as they can.
Correct. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we send a letter, we pass that tonight, and send the letter in the application so that they can get their paperwork squared away
Good.
with the state and with the town.
Okay.
What I would also like to suggest is that we review the actual costs of these licenses.
Okay.
The work that the town puts into putting these applications together.
Okay.
The fire inspection, the police inspection, the building inspection, all of these things come together.
Yep.
All the paperwork that we have to do to chase down whether they've paid their taxes or they owe money here or there. We need to kind of look at that and come up with a reasonable fee that we can charge that covers the town's cost for doing that work.
Okay. All right. I think that's
Sounds fine.
sound. Okay. So
I move that we send the letter.
We already did it.
No. We established the category of Farmers Winery. That's all we've
Oh,
done so
that's all
far.
we
So the second one, the Board of Selectmen needs to set a fee structure for renewal, but we're gonna
We're gonna
You're gonna come up-
postpone that until we can do
postpone
some
that until we
review.
can
Right.
review
Sure.
it and see what the fee structure should be.
But my motion is that we send the letter to the winery stating that they have to, and here is the application.
Okay.
Fill it out, yeah.
Well, you have a second?
No,
Second.
Go ahead,
Second.
Bob.
Yeah, I thought we already did
I
that.
thought we did too, but that's
No,
okay.
you voted on number 1, and we were waiting for a motion for number 3, and so Mr. Perry
Okay.
just made
The
The
that.
Board of Selectmen needs to send a letter to the Mill River Winery informing them that the APCC directive to the town as stated above and a copy of the Farmer Series pouring permit application.
Correct.
Okay.
That's my motion.
Just remember, there's no alcohol allowed on town property. So we can't have a glass of wine tonight to figure this out.
Okay, so I have a motion. I
We
have a
have had
second.
alcohol in the past on town property.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Bob.
Second.
I don't know what I'm talking about, okay, we'll
All
second it.
right. Okay, Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're
Yeah,
proceeding
that's fine.
properly, because, again,
Otherwise, it's a new process and we
it's a
just-
new process, and I don't want to, I mean,
Well, we want to take care of the businesses that we have in town.
yeah,
Right.
that's right.
I think they're a valuable asset to the community. So they bring in, not only do they bring in people from the outside that stop at the gas station and buy gas or go to the restaurant and buy something to eat, they're coming to our town and they're buying a product.
And we have an obligation, not only when we set these fees and we look at it, everything else, that makes sure it's fair across the board, and that nobody's pointing fingers, how come you get favors, and you don't
Right.
get this, and we want to do it, we're on TV, everybody see what we're doing, that's important,
So we established a new category
yes.
as there is a special categories in the ones that we already have. And so we've added to it the farmer's winery pouring permit. And then we will send out the letter to the Mill River Winery.
And they'll get the application in, and then we have the hearing, and, it's a long process.
Give them a
Right.
lot of publicity to be lined up at the winery tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll all wind up at the winery tomorrow, yes.
Well, we won't, everybody else will.
Everybody else will, yeah. Well, it's a great, I don't know, if you've been in there, it's really,
Yeah, it's very nice.
very
They
impressive.
do a good business in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I took a
Seems
tour,
like it.
I took
Anyway, there's guys
a,
in there all the
I
time.
took a tour, about a year ago, very impressed with the place. Okay, moving on, minutes to, November 25th, 2013, everybody read them?
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments?
No. I make a motion.
I have a
we
motion.
accept them as printed for November.
I'll second it.
20.
And I have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, executive session for November 25th, 2013. Okay, I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion.
Second.
Do I have a second? I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right. Okay, moving on. Announcements. Raleigh Food Pantry has needed donations. The Raleigh Food Pantry is open Tuesdays from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. and Thursdays from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. There's a drop-off basket at the library, and there's another one at the COA? Is it?
I believe there is.
I think there is a basket there at the COA. Okay, so this is a great time of year, and I've talked to you all at home before about this. There is a need in the community for those in need. So if you feel, especially at this time of year, it's greatly appreciated, the people at the food pantry to help out. So,
Mr. Chairman, in your folder, you have a note about change in hours. for
oh,
the food
yes,
pantry.
I'm sorry.
Please.
Ellen Peabody from the Raleigh Food Pantry left a voicemail and to ask you to announce the Selectmen's meeting the following. Raleigh Food Pantry will be open December 21st, 2013 from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. It will be closed December 24th and December 26th, and it will reopen on December 31st, 2013. Okay, we'll read that again next week, so.
Yes.
All right. Town has the following vacant seats: Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, two associate, 2 seats, 2 fence viewer positions, and wood lumber bark inspector. Also, the battery recycling box is located here in the town hall and also in the library. And again, get those A batteries, those old C cells, throw them in a plastic bag, save them up, drop them right off here in at town hall, or again at the library. And it's a great way of getting yourself and the kids and everybody else green. Okay, so with that, we are going to let me get my motion here. Okay, call for a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing strategy and to respect to litigation, because an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on litigating of the town, and not to return to open session. Ask for a member of the board to make a
I'll make
motion.
that motion.
I have a motion. Do I have a second with a roll call vote?
Second.
A second.
Chad Cook.
Aye, Joe Perry.
I, Robert Snow.
Hi, Robert Murray.
Hi, Dave Peterson.
Okay, we're going into executive session. Thank you, everyone, and we will see you again next week. And thank you for tuning in. Good night now.